I hope you have a good and glorious week. Great day. It's going to be beautiful outside. Good beginning to the new year, yeah? All right, so we're in Genesis. We're in the story of Jacob and now Israel and his children. And we see the same theme where the youngest child gets the blessing again. This time it's Joseph. And Joseph's older brothers sell him into slavery. And they think he's gone, but he actually, most of you know the story. He becomes like one of the main ruler of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. And there's a famine. Joseph interprets the Pharaoh's dream in 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. And so he gets placed over all of Egypt to build storehouses, and his family back in Canaan, well, they're starving because of the famine. And Jacob, who becomes Israel, Israel tells his children, go get some food. So they go to Egypt to buy food, and there's this whole interplay between Joseph and his brothers. And so now where I want to read to you this morning is the boys go home to get their father because Joseph has revealed himself and said, bring everyone down here so that our family can be saved and we can take care of them. And so that's what they do. And so now Israel realizes that Joseph is alive. He's packing everything up and he's going into Egypt. And I just wanted to read this one part of this and then talk with you about something that I do particularly in the Old Testament, but throughout the scriptures, when I'm preparing spiritual messages and trying to understand them so that I can help people in their journeys. So this is Genesis 46, the beginning of the chapter. Israel set out with all that was his, and when he reached Beersheba, he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in a vision at night, and he said, Jacob, Jacob. It's interesting that God calls him Jacob at this time and not Israel, which is a sermon for another day. Here I am, he replied. I am God, the God of your father. And he said, do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again. And Joseph's own hand will close your eyes. And so once again, we see this theme of someone in Abraham's family taking everything that they have, getting up and going somewhere. And each time that they do that, there's this promise that God's going to down the road, he's going to do something wonderful for the nation. And so it's a motif. It just keeps recurring over and over again. And so when I read these scriptures, I try to find Jesus in them, which is one of the things that we're trying to do now. But more than that, what I try to do is I try to look at the stories as Trinitarian. And is there a creation aspect to this story? Is there a redemption story here? Is there a story of provision and sustaining? Father, Son, Spirit, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer. Are there more than one revelations for us to understand? And the reason that's important is because my soul needs to be reaffirmed that God is all of those things to me. And so many people that I know, it's the same kind of thing. Sometimes God needs to be the creator in our lives, the Redeemer in our life, the sustainer, the provider for things in our life. And a lot of times it's like all three. And when you start to look at the stories that way, there are many aha moments where you go, oh, I see it now. And so there's always like key words that I look for. One of them is, of course, create or make. And that means that there's an act of the Father, the Creator Father, in this story. And this is God, and the promises that God gives to Abraham and to his families of it will happen, they're all make promises. They're creator promises. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make something out of you. I'm going to make something out of your people, out of your children and your grandchildren. And so the creator is involved in this story. And it's very clear that the concept of making for the Hebrew people and for us really should be a concept that links us to the Creator God. In the beginning, God made, He created, He made, He's a maker. And we are reminded, and this is the trust part, we're reminded that as Creator, as the maker of things in my life, in the life of my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, in the fulfillment of the plan, the maker is also the planner. In the fulfillment of the plan, the things that he makes are always good. And even though immediately in my life, and even maybe even for my entire life, it sure doesn't seem good, the planner and the maker by nature makes it good. And that becomes a real source of trust in our lives. And it is trust in Jacob's life here, because he's going to really a place that if we were to see this in our society today, I think Egypt would be canceled because they're slaveholders, and Jacob's children, grandchildren, his heirs, they're going to be here for 400 years. You and I know the story. But the maker, the planner, says, I've got this. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that in the course of 400 years, there were some pretty bad taskmasters who owned those people. No doubt there were a lot of people who said, where is God now? Where's that maker at? Where's that planner at? And you may be there in your life saying, where's that good God right now? Well, he's made a promise and he's not going to let it fail. And so even though we can't really see it today as being good, we have to walk into it. We have to get up and walk into it, because I've learned that if we don't trust it, if we don't walk into it, then we become paralyzed. And really, we become owned by the darkness, by the failure, by the despair. It owns us and it consumes us, and we're done. We give up. We're done. And I know that the maker doesn't want that. So he, as the planner of my life, he's planned out my life, every day of my life. I have to trust that today is meant to take me somewhere. And I need to get up and go. And sometimes I need to take everything with me. And and trust that, okay, don't know where I'm going. It looks just as dark over there as it does here. But you know what? I got the maker on my side. I got the promise maker on my side. And that's a really important place to start the new steps of your journey. So I hope and I pray that this is meaningful for you and you have a great